Hi, welcome back to the front row. I'm Daniel Boy, and today we are going to be talking about the very difficult subject of fashion education in the era of COVID. Why is it difficult? It's because of the disrupted narrative. Students who are studying find that they can't go back to school. Graduates find that obstacles are thrown in the way in the putting together of their graduate collection. So today we have three very, very special guests from the Nanyang Academy of Fine Arts to share with us their stories and their journey. Let's start off with Anthony Tan. Would you like to tell us what you do?
Hi, my name is Anthony Tan. I'm the Vice Dean of the Fashion Studies program of Nanyang Academy of Fine Arts.
Anthony, you have two recent fashion graduates with you who have both graduated from the BA Honours class. Designers, to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Darren Low. I just graduated from degree in fashion and marketing from NAFA.
Hi guys, I'm Kenneth Lee, graduating from Nanyang Academy of Fine Arts in the degree program, majoring in fashion design.
All right, let's plunge straight into the discussion of the topic. How has COVID impacted your fashion education and the school courses and all that, and your graduation as well? Let's start with Anthony. How has COVID thrown a spanner in the works?
First of all, no one was allowed to go back to school, so everything was just abruptly stopped. So that causes a lot of disruption because students were not having access to all the facilities, all the equipment. So that sort of more or less compromise a bit on the final outcome of their assignment of their work. Like for example, Darren needed to use the photography studio to create his lookbook, but no one was allowed to go back to school, so that plan has to be scrapped. Things like this were quite difficult, but that doesn't mean that things could not be done. Students were very creative and they actually found solution to execute their work. And when I say execute the work, it doesn't mean it was done half-heartedly or subpar, but it was really quite well done actually.
Okay, I'm going to throw this question to each of you, Darren and Kenneth. How did you adapt to all these obstacles that were thrown in your way? Let's start with Darren and uh, your photography studio woes. How did you work around that?
Yeah, so I had quite a big challenge for the photo shoot. So we had to do our photo shoot, like Anthony said, we need to do for our submission. And because it was circuit breaker, so we cannot go anywhere. And someone phase one. So I have no choice but to like sneak in my friends secretly to my house and I borrow equipments from Carousel and change my whole living room into like a makeshift photo shoot booth.
Um,
And
Sorry, I need to pause you. You just discriminate yourself.
okay. I mean, um, like my friend happened to pass by, and it was a fun experience.
Can
Like overall, is it was like minimized the cost also. Yeah, it was quite fun.
And what about you, Kenneth?
For me, I think my collection, most of the stuff I've, thank God I've finished before the circuit breaker was implemented. Um, yeah, but definitely yes, there are some finishings that were a bit challenging for me to complete. Uh, yeah, so most of the work I think is more to like for the mood boards and stuff like that, the finishing touches. And yeah, lucky as for my photo shoot, I think I just thank God I finished it before yeah the circuit breaker was implemented.
Right. Well, okay. Anthony and I have been working together for a very long time on a lot of NAFA graduation fashion shows, and we were talking about this year's graduation show from as early as last year. And NAFA stages the biggest graduate fashion shows in town. And I remember having that conversation with you, Anthony, at the start of the pandemic, before we actually started to panic about how we were going to pivot the show. And there were talks about doing half a digital show, half a physical show, and then of course there was the lockdown as well. So, what was going through your mind? What prompted you to make those decisions that you made that we should go for a completely digital model for your graduation?
I mean, first of all, we didn't know what's going to happen because regulations and rules were changing on almost on a daily basis. So we didn't know how to really tackle this issue. But at the same time, we also didn't want to uh, allow this cohort or this particular cohort to not get the experience of having a graduation showcase. So other than not being able to organize or conduct a physical show, what else can we do? I mean, there were a lot of like graduation video going on from overseas, um, because they are working on a different date, so their graduation is much earlier. So on our part is at one point at one time we were closely monitoring what the rules and regulation were implemented or rather were being imposed, and at the same time how do we go about executing this so-called graduation show that we want to, because we didn't want to shortchange the student. But of course um, due to the restriction and due to all the show has to be compromised. Is it compromised in a good way or bad way? I can't say, but at least we try our best to do it within the restriction and also within the abilities that we can. Like for example, we had a hard time getting a location to shoot because initially there was a location that was agreeable for us to do the shooting, but in the end, due to the ever-changing rules and regulation, it was they basically turned us down very last minute. So like our conversation, me and Daniel's boys, conversation that was happening almost on a daily basis. Things are just changing almost every hour, every second. We until the day of the show, I really didn't know whether it was going to take place or not.
Well, for those of you who have just watched the NAFA graduation show that was taking place before our podcast, that show was shot in phase one at the end of the COVID restrictions when they were lifted. So there was still a lot of restrictions in place. There were a lot of filming restrictions in place. And as Anthony rightly said, the venue that we got that was supposed to be the venue that we were supposed to shoot the show in turned us down because they were not allowed to film it there. So we had to tackle all these problems. But do you think this is going to be the new normal? That with COVID and all that, with fashion education, with the designers going embarking on their fashion careers, do you think this unpredictability is going to be the new normal? Okay, let's start with the designers with Darren and Kenneth. Are you afraid of what's going to be what's lying ahead in your fashion journey?
Yeah. So like right now, actually I'm like after graduation, you find job, and actually because of this whole circuit breaker and I mean COVID-19, is the fashion industry is like getting lesser and lesser jobs opportunities, and yeah, it's actually quite scary. But at the same time, it's interesting because like there's more jobs in a digital marketing kind of uh, part in the industry, which opens a different door and it's unpredictable, but yet something to look forward to.
What about you, Kenneth?
I think I have to agree with Darren, but I think for me now, I think I'll take a break. I'll take this opportunity to take a break and maybe go and explore in new different sectors and to improve myself. So probably I think that's what I will do at a period of time.
Do you think that, I mean, you put in so much effort in the past few years, getting your degree and all, and congratulations by the way on your graduation. Do you think you are now
Thank you.
back to one that everything that you have learned is not applicable in the new world now, the way the new norm? Do you think yeah, really, are you back to square one?
I wouldn't say I wouldn't agree and on disagree, but I think yeah, definitely it's a skill set that is it helps us in through our walks of life, I guess. So um yeah, I think it's we should adapt and learn more new things and see how we can yeah, adapt into the new normal.
Okay, all this talk about COVID and restrictions and all that is getting a bit depressing. So let's go back to the good old days. Anthony, before COVID, NAFA was known for your fashion courses and your amazing alumni of designers who graduated, a lot of whom are showing on the front row. We have Jin Lee, we have Max Tan. Incidentally, I'm wearing Max Tan today, and who else? Chien from Grace was graduated from NAFA as well. So you have got an amazing, amazing foundation of alumni. What were your fashion courses like at NAFA, and what was NAFA known for?
Okay, other than design, right, we really want to give our so-called student very good foundation, very strong foundation. We do not want them to be like perfect sewer or seamstress, but they need to know how to put garments together in the use by applying appropriate methods and all the cuts and everything. So we are quite proud to say that we actually gave our students very strong foundation, and the foundation allows them to basically execute a lot of jobs. As you know, when you enter into the industry, the requirements and also the amount of work that's being thrown to you is quite it's not for one person. You basically have to multitask on a daily basis, and with the strong foundation that we give to our students, we are quite proud to say that they are able to execute and do the job well, and also being well received by the industry for being a good worker, good doer, good team player. You know what I mean? So that's something that we're quite proud of by giving our students very strong foundation. And we also try to encourage our students to be entrepreneurs. So those who has that aptitude, that kind of aspiration to want to have their own label, to start their own company, their own brand, we actually encourage them to by also giving them providing them consultations and giving them acting as a mentor to them even after graduation. So the relationship is still ongoing, and it's quite fruitful actually for us. Yeah.
And I must say, you must be very proud of your alumni because they've all established very, very, very successful businesses. And someone like Max Tan, it takes a lot of maturity and uh, very strong foundation in order to take off with the kind of runway success that he had. I think he was noticed after his very first collection that he launched professionally as a label, and suddenly he was all over Europe. He was showing at Trenoy and all, and it takes a lot of maturity and a very strong support system in order to be able to last 10 years. This year he's celebrating his 10th anniversary. I hope you all saw his show, which was on the opening day. In fact, oh my God, I just realized both designers who opened the festival are NAFA graduates, Jin Lee and Max Tan. How amazing is that?
Yeah.
Congratulations. Well done. Okay.
Thank you, thank you. We're
Now,
really very proud of our alumni. We are really very proud of those who really have the aspiration and the tenacity to actually survive this industry that is forever that's not forgiving at all actually. Yeah.
oh, most definitely. It's a very tough industry. So, Darren and Kenneth, are you sure you want to be in this industry? Okay, now, with all these challenges that COVID has thrown, what what is the road that lies ahead for NAFA? How are you pivoting uh, to cater to all these restrictions for your new batches of students and the next batch of students that's going to be graduating as well?
Yeah, we have actually started our new semester, and it's been very challenging. Right now we're adopting a fully online mode till the middle of the semester. then face-to-face classes, physical classes will resume back. But when we resume back to the physical classes, right, there's a lot of restriction as well because every single classroom in our building has to have safety distancing. So there is a maximum capacity cap for each room. So if let's say I have a class of more than 30 students, but the room capacity can only accommodate 15 students plus one lecturer, that means 16 people, I have to break the class down into two. So
Right.
that became a major challenge, and also um, uh, these are rules and regulation imposed to us by the government. I'm not complaining about it. It's just that there's a lot more work. Like after every class, all the student has to start wiping down the surface they have touched and the equipment they have used. So it's a lot of it will be a lot of getting used to. There will be a lot more monitoring about student welfare and student well-being, and at the same time we also need to prevent a cluster from forming. So there's a lot more policing things to do for this new cohort, this new way of learning, this new normal, I suppose. Yeah, not easy, but we are doing it. Yeah.
But I have a question for you. In an industry like fashion, which is so tactile, how will learning from home affect the way you communicate skills to the student designers? Like, for example, how are you going to teach sewing and pattern cutting? How is that going to be done virtually?
The practical modules, the so-called hands-on modules, are the most difficult because if we go fully online, right, then the learning experience will definitely be compromised, and that's something that we are still balancing. How much online and how much face-to-face classes. That is the most challenging part. I mean, I myself have been watching like YouTube videos on people sewing demonstration, and if you don't have the right foundation or the strong foundation to understand those terms and those technique, right, it's really very difficult to follow. And I don't think that is the kind of learning we want to give our student. So so we still try to conduct as many face-to-face classes as possible within the safety measure. At the same time, try not to over compromise the learning experience for our student. Yes, it's challenging. Some things can be done online, like for example, our pattern making classes. Instead of doing full skills, because online within a small screen, because most of our students will be using a camera to learn, so we decided to scale down the basic pattern block to um, quarter size, half size, so that it's easier to accommodate within the screen, and with smaller patterns that they are working with for the exercises. I suppose they can quickly pick up the skills, and then once they come back to class, they can expand it to normal life size, and then continue from there. So there's this flip-flop learning kind of attitude that they have to adopt as well. Yeah.
Do you think it compromises the amount of skills that can be passed on to the students, and it compromises the amount of learning that the students uh, give to say an online class, for instance?
Definitely it will. We're trying our best not to. We're trying to see how much we can do online, and then after that, when they come back for their face-to-face classes, we can catch up on it. Or if not, then perhaps relook at the learning outcome. But we don't want to compromise too much because these are quite uh, basic skills that we believe all the students must have. I'm not saying that I'm not willing to change, but some changes are valid, but some we really want to keep. Like, for example, all the theory classes will be fully online even after September. It will be fully online until the end of the semester, because we want to reduce the amount of face-to-face contact among the student and or rather for them to leave their home to come to school. So some lessons will be fully online still, and we try to minimize the amount of time they spend to travel to school to pick up some skills
Right.
and knowledge. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask our two fabulous graduates now this question. If you had to take online classes for your BA, for instance, do you think it would have compromised on your education, and do you think you would not have been able to come up with the wonderful collections that you both created, and they were amazing collections. I really enjoyed shooting that show with your collections.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
think it will definitely compromise, right? Like there's a lot of like fashion is very hands on, and there's a lot of like pattern drafting and sewing stuff uh that we can't just learn it from YouTube. That we have to learn it hands on our lecture. But yet again, I think is good that we need to adapt and change. Keyword is more of like adapting and learning how to visualize our pattern cutting and everything else in a very different way. So I think the keyword is like to adapt. Yeah.
Were there any challenges to okay, Anthony, I'm directing this question to you because this is the first time you're actually doing online classes. Were there any challenges that you faced when you first started implementing these? And were
Um,
there? How did the students take to it?
they all want to come back to school. So that's quite an interesting find because a lot of them are feeling the online fatigue as well because we are doing it fully for now until September. So um, and and some of them because of the convenience of online, right, convenience of technology, they forgot that the lecturers are not there all the time. The lectures are not Google, they are not there all the time for them. So you receive like chat messages at like 10:30 in the evening, that kind, and they forgot that the lecturers are actually not logged on online to answer to their questions at that moment. Yeah, so these are some of the things that they have to learn, or rather to realize that given that time slot, they have to be there in order to gain whatever lesson that we have planned for them during that time. We also told the students about online social etiquette, or rather online etiquette, like to when you have a class of 20 over teenagers or youngster, they tend to talk all at the same time. So that's also one issue that we have to basically um, we have to control the mute button all the time in order for the class to be able to proceed on time and also as planned. Yeah. Other than that, theory classes going online is no issue at all because that is quite easy because the materials are already there. It's just putting them online. But it's how to engage the student on a deeper level that we find it very challenging. Uh, which is we are still exploring, I suppose. Yeah, because it's not easy to engage them, especially if you have a 4 hour class, there's no way you can expect the student to stay engaged for 4 hours online, especially when it's fully online. So there needs to be a lot more activities to create, like having more quizzes, having more discussion, having more basically hands-on activities or breakout rooms for them to do smaller group discussion and things like that. So it's a lot more work to do, but it's quite fun actually to be able to use this new technologies, or rather technologies tools to help engage the students. Yeah.
Okay, speaking of fun, are there any advantages that have come out of these online classes that you think that you could adapt to the future?
One great advantage is because they are learning from home, they don't really need to wake up much earlier for traveling time to come to school. So they could, if it's a 9 o'clock class, they can easily wake up at 8:45 and be ready by 9. So we actually have a lot lesser attendance issue or late issue. So that's a
Oh,
good thing. Other than that, um, We are trying also to simulate the online breakout rooms or the online rooms as classroom. It's just that instead of a physical presence, it's done through the screen. What we also realize that the material that we used for teaching online, right, needs to be a bit more. I wouldn't use the word personalized, but it can't be something that you just pull from the internet or from the online source and then just use it, because it just doesn't have that connection with the student. You know what I mean? So a lot of the materials we try to produce it ourselves. The lecturers are filming, doing a lot more filming about on their lessons, on the kind of work that they need to do, especially demonstration, like textile classes. If they need to show them some technique, they have to film themselves doing the technique and then show it to the student. Even though some of this technique can be pulled from the internet source, but it's just not personalized enough. It's nice to hear the lecturer's voice doing the demonstration rather than hearing a, a foreigner voice, I suppose. Yeah.
Has it been difficult for the lecturers and the teachers to adapt, or did they just stick to it? Like,
Yes, yes, because there's a lot of new technology tools that you need to, uh, I wouldn't, no, it's not relearn, to learn. So
right.
that could be a lot more time consuming because you have to pick up a lot more new skills. You know, like
Mhm.
even Zoom, okay, Zoom itself, right, is quite intuitive. Without going any training, you should be able to learn. But then there's a lot of like all these tools built within Zoom that you can use to make the class more interesting, which can take a while for you to so-called get used to it, or rather learn how to use that. Like for example, the breakout room, to set the quiz, to inbuild the quiz among your Zoom lesson and things like that. So those kind of things takes time for you to explore. And luckily, the circuit breaker happened during the school holidays, so there were time for us to do some a lot more preparation to learn new things. Yeah. If it happens during our semester time, then I think it will be a lot more chaotic.
It'll be pandemonium, right?
Yes.
Let's turn the attention to our two graduates. If you had to go through the final semester of your course virtually, what kind of things would you want to see out of these courses that would be able to take you to the next level and learn and teach you the skills that are required? Your wish list, your wish list.
Mm, and
That
the thing on my head right now is probably a lot of probably like lectures pre-recording their videos on like maybe how to do this and that, so we can like keep on referencing, and maybe some online activities whereby and yeah, probably like give us a lot of notes. So because we, uh, it's just a 4 hours class for 20 people thing, so that we can just reference it ourselves. Yeah, that's all I can think of.
anything else?
You know?
Uh, I think I'll agree with Darren. So I think sometimes maybe doing through virtual, I think I think we can explore different ways of how to uh, counter certain stuff that we can do. Like for example, you know, you never know. Like if let's just say we happen to do like online classes and stuff like that, and uh, I think it helps for the future if uh, touch wood, if this happens like until who knows when, uh, at least we are sort of prepared and we actually have a like a I think trial run or at least some knowledge of some how to counter it lah. So yeah, I think it's a good way.
Do you think digitalization is going to be the future of fashion and fashion education? Okay, let's ask Anthony. Do you think this is going to be
Yes,
the
it
new
will
norm?
be. Yes, it
What
will
happens?
be. Because
What happens? are lifted and people can go back to school again, do you think uh, online education is going to feature greatly?
The thing is, before this pandemic, right, we are already facing space issue. There's always not enough classroom to use. There's always not enough space for students to do their work. So having some of the classes going online, right, that actually helped. That lifted some of the uh, that sort of like gave us a lot more leeway to play with space, to plan with space, so that we can give students the so-called full learning experience with like a studio space for them to work on their on their collection, on their work. So that helps. I think if the pandemic is um, it's over, if we find a cure for COVID-19, I don't think uh, we will go back the same way because with some of the modules going online, that actually helps a lot too. Um, and also we realize that, for example, the grad show that we do, that's putting it online, it actually reaches out to a lot more people because with a physical fashion show, we can only do it on that day itself and for that few, say, 45 minutes. With this version that we put it online, right, we can actually put it online for at least a month,
Mhm.
and the outreach is so much wider because people from overseas can watch it. We do have quite a big number of international students. So because of this pandemic, their parents were not able to come visit them or come for their graduation. So with putting this show online, right, it actually reaches out to people that are in their home country. They are able to watch their children or their the work of their loved ones that are studying here. So there's a lot of positivity coming out from this pandemic actually.
What about Darren and Kenneth? Do you think that digitalization is going to be key to the fashion industry? And what are you doing to prepare yourself for that? Let's start with Darren.
Yeah, I think digitalization is the next thing that we have to learn how to adapt to it. So like for me, I've been like uh going online courses from LinkedIn, like those digital marketing courses, and yeah, I think it's very important to update yourself with learning how to do digitalize even like social medias. Yeah.
Kenneth?
Yeah, I agree with Darren on the social media part where I think now social media is one of the main factor, yeah, in trying to, showcase yourself. So yeah, I believe people in this generation, most of them would prefer now because also circuit breaker, they would like to scroll their social media and whatever. And yeah, they, yeah, I think it's a very, very good platform. And in future, I think everybody will move towards the digital life format. Yeah.
So, Anthony, are there plans to adapt the classes or change the classes to teach students about adapting to this new digitalization of fashion and teaching them social media skills? Because these skills are utterly important in the marketing of your brand. Are you going to be changing the courses to accommodate these changes?
Definitely having an online presence is very important now. So a lot of the work that we collect from the student are actually not in hard copy version now. They are actually being submitted online. So having those work submitted online actually helps because they can easily create their website. They can actually put up their work onto Instagram if they want to. So that helps though. Now the thing is, we also need to be careful. We also don't want to train or rather encourage our students to all become influencer because that
Yeah.
seems to be the direction that this online thing is going. But we want to emphasize more about having a online presence. Like if you have a website, what does it say about you, about your work, and how can people reach out to you, and how will people be relating to your work, or how your work is going to contribute back to society, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So we need to be careful here because we just need to make them to be responsible designer, and also at the same time contribute back to the industry, to society, I suppose. Yeah.
Are there things in the past that you miss that you wish you could take into the future with you? And are there things that you are so glad to leave behind in the fashion industry?
um, the glamorous aspect of fashion is it's what draws people to this industry, to this discipline. I think people who are really into fashion, they need to lead the way in terms of how you want to promote. I really hate seeing people promoting fashion for their uh, just for vanity sake. That's what I cannot stand, and I just hope with this pandemic, people can make more conscious decision in terms of not just in terms of what they buy, what they wear, but also what they say and how they show their lifestyle. I mean, um, like what you mentioned in the past, right? Being extravagant, being over the top seems to be very highly associated to fashion. And with
Yeah.
this pandemic, right, you can see things are going back to basic, going back to zero, which I'm very happy for it because I think the fashion industry as a whole, fashion itself as a whole, needs to rethink how we can move on in order to make it sustainable. And sustainable doesn't mean you recycle your clothes. Sustainable doesn't mean you buy organic materials. You know what I mean? It's about how you sustain your lifestyle using fashion, how you sustain uh, the future of your children or for your next generation. It's more about that though. Yeah.
On sustainability, Kenneth and Darren, do you think it's important that that future fashion designers incorporate this eco message, this responsible message into new brands? What's in it?
Yeah, I think it's very important, and it has been very good. Like late years, a lot of fashion industry actually like they shift towards a very sustainable community, and everyone starts to talk about and care about being environmental or social sustainability. And it's very important to slowly shift over from like fast fashion to buying clothes that you need, because at the same time, uh, buying like fast fashion and stuff like that, it is very harmful for the environment, and there's a lot of, and with the very poor waste management, it causes a lot of problems. I think it's very important to be sustainable in fashion.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on sustainability?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any other
Me?
thoughts on sustainability? Yeah.
I think yeah. Now I think in general fashion industry, I think they really tried to reduce all the like all the waste. Like recently, I came across a documentary where actually those many big manufacturers, they actually um after the cutting out the fabrics, all the all the waste fabrics that are being recycled back and rebuilt it into a same fabrication. So I think there are some there are changes now. So yeah, I hope in future it will be more of this kind, hearing more of this kind.
Okay. Anthony, I have a question for you. From one fashion veteran to another fashion veteran. Okay, that means because we are very old. Okay, we have seen a lot of fashion
Speak for
designers.
yourself.
Okay, for the record, I'm older than Anthony. Okay, we have seen a lot of
Not much.
fashion designers come and go, very famous during their heyday, but now nobody knows they exist. What do you think designers need nowadays to stay relevant and or even to stay alive? What do you think is the key right now?
I mean, A good example is you look at all these so-called old ancient brands that are still relevant now.
Mhm.
Not to mention their name, but you see how they are uh, reaching out to the younger generation to make them their future customer. So these are the
Right.
kind of things that I think for any designer, whether young or old, I mean, if you want to stay relevant or rather current, you need to do something like that. Unless you have your own market that you only cater to a certain age group or certain type of customer. But if you want to reach out to them, right? I mean, you need to play the game. You need to be on their level. You know, it really depends on the kind of customer you want to reach out to. I mean, you look at all these really old, like brands that are more than 100 years old, but they're still relevant now. What did they do? How did they do it? What is it by just employing young designers to take over the brand, or what exactly are the kind of marketing strategy they're applying in order to capture um, so-called a new market to be so-called the it brand again, even after 100 years they're still the it brand, you know what I mean? So I think there's a lot to I don't think if you have that kind of, I'm not saying that you need to have that kind of budget in order to do that kind of work, but you need to want to reach out to these people and speak at their level, I suppose. Yeah.
Do you think brands that have let's talk about these brands with a long storied history who are still around today? Some of these brands have completely changed the aesthetic, changed their stories to cater to the younger generation. Do you think
Mm.
it's a form of selling out, or do you think it's a form of survival and keeping up with the times?
I mean, it really depends. I don't think what they did is good or bad. I mean, they just want to stay current and relevant. I mean, losing their aesthetic uh, could be one thing. Losing it for good or for bad, it's really not for us to say. You know, end of the day, it could be out of desperation. End of the day, it's just that the brand has been known for something that's so old already. It's time to move on. You know,
Right.
so I what I like is they actually have the courage and guts to take the lead, and it's really nice to see them lead in that way. You know, yeah, maybe they have lose their so-called original DNA, but is it really real love lost, or no loss at all? You know what I mean? It really depends how you feel about that brand. I mean, for example, if you look at Dior in the 40s and Dior now,
Yeah.
do you yeah, I mean, I can't say that they have done a bad job. It's just that it has evolved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in a more recent example, look at Celine. You know, Celine under Phoebe Philo, and then now Celine,
Mm,
the direction of Celine right now under Eddie Slimane.
mm,
It's completely different, but at the same
mm,
time, the brand is still around and the brand is still doing well.
mm,
So,
mm.
is there a right thing to do, or was that a wrong thing to do?
But seriously, it's not fast to say whether it's right or wrong. It's really how the company want to move on, correct or not? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, if you are a fan of Phoebe Philo, you will not like the current Celine, correct? So everyone,
Yes.
all the Phoebe Philo fan are all praying for her to start her own brand or go somewhere else so that they can follow. But that doesn't mean the old YSL fan will not cross over to Celine now, because
Mm, mm,
Heidi Slimane used to do YSL, correct? Yeah. So
exactly.
so people who like that kind of rock style, decadent look will follow Celine. You know, it's just um, one thing I say that the aesthetic is too close for me to differentiate. I can't tell the difference between Celine and YSL.
Yeah. And
That's
do you think
that's my
that
problem with that now. Yeah.
right. I mean, do you think people have short memories? Because I remember that there was everyone was up in arms when he dropped the Eves from Saint Laurent and changed it to Saint Laurent, and now it's become the new norm. You know, people have forgotten about the Eves already. So do you think people
That's
just have
it. Yeah lah.
would you,
It's YSL is one of part of a legacy, I suppose, that we're still clinging on to, and then yeah, they want to move on because it's sold to a different boss already, right? A different company that's owning it now. So they want to have a fresh start, I suppose. But the funny thing that you mentioned the change of the name, because during that time, right, some
Mhm.
of the brands also started changing their font, and it so
Yeah,
happened that everybody is using the same font now, and the brands, if you look at the brand logo itself, right, they look identical now.
yeah.
So I find it
Ex-
quite interesting that that they are so scared of doing something drastic that people do not recognize or relate to it, that they stick, or rather they use a very safe path.
Okay, picking up on that, let me ask our two young designers now. Okay, if you had a strong aesthetic and a strong DNA, and you were forced to change that to adapt to your customer base or your moving or the changing times, would you do it? And how far would you do it? How far would you go? Kenneth?
Yes, I think I will definitely. I'll keep an open mind for every decision I make. And I think definitely in terms of uh, aesthetics wise or what, I think I will definitely have some. We would love to remain some of my own uh, uh, culture or taste. You get what I mean? Like, yeah, I'll implement a few of this and also adapt to the current trends.
What about you, Darren?
I think it really depends, right? Like ultimately it's all about money making, right? If my new customer base is a very wider audience and yet is a better money making business, then I would change. But at the same time, of course, I will definitely leave some hint of uh my brand ethos to it, so that my current customers will still like buy from me. So it really depends.
Okay, let's veer away a little bit from fashion and fashion education to talk about collaborations and side projects. Specifically, Anthony, you are an award winning, very famous theater costumer. Okay, and some of the most amazing costumes that have come out of our Singapore stage have been by you. For example, Flower Club. Why did you decide to do that? Was it like an ECA for you, or has that always been your passion, but there was no money in it?
It's considered an ECA, but how it started was really it was just it just happened very naturally. The thing is, I already had a diploma in fashion design when I entered into the so-called the theatre community, and because of my background in fashion design, it just automatically was assigned to me to handle the wardrobe, to start designing costumes. So it just started from there when I started working with theatre directors and things like that. Yeah, and it's just continued from there since 1993 until now. Yeah. So it's not that I don't enjoy doing it. It's actually quite a nice outlet for me because I get to be very creative. When I was working in
Mhm.
the fashion industry, because I was working with a very commercial brand, I had a lot of so-called artistic restriction. I had to follow trend very closely. I have to make sure the things I design sells. If I do something too avant-garde, nobody will dare to wear it. So I have to tone it down a lot more. But with theatre project, right, I really didn't have to tone it down. All I need to do is to gain an understanding with the director on the kind of direction he or she wants to take, and then I can just run free from there. So that is sort of like my artistic creative output. And then when I started teaching, right, yeah, I was able to do it over the weekend on the side, because that is also one of my so-called professional practice. So it works out well, really well for me. Yeah. So I really enjoy doing it.
What if you design something that you think is perfect and the cast members absolutely love it, but the director tells you to change it because that's not their vision? How would you compromise? Would you compromise?
It really depends who I work with. People who work well with me will, before I do anything, we will already have some kind of deeper understanding in terms of the kind of work we do. if it's somebody that I've not worked with and it's somebody new that I'm working with, right? Then I actually spend a lot more time talking to the collaborator before I start. So I don't really face this kind of issue. Yeah, I mean, end of the day, compromising is not a bad word. I'm also not that kind of person that no, you only once my vision is set, you have to take it or leave it. End of the day, if it's really for the better of the show, then I'm willing to compromise. I suppose we need to gain that kind of understanding. It's a two-way traffic lah. You cannot just impose the change and then not explain to me why you want the change. I need to have an
Yeah.
understanding on the purpose of the change, and if it's for the better of the show, then I'll say go for it. Because end of the day, it's the show that's more important than your ego or your so-called artistic vision. Yeah.
Well said. All right. Before we end this very interesting podcast, I mean, we could go on and on and on forever. Let me just ask each of you what your thoughts are on the future and your future in fashion. Let's start off with you, Anthony. What do you think is the future of fashion and your future in the grand scheme of the fashion things?
It's definitely calculated decision. You really need to plan and then make wise choices um, in terms of how you want to move on from 2021 onwards. Yeah, because it's not going to be back to normal, but it's how you're going to live your life from there. Yeah. In terms of the bigger picture, we really want the younger generation because every year we are recruiting younger and younger students to come in, right? So we are hoping the younger generation will have a more life skills. Uh, bef- I mean, I really hope so because of this pandemic, people will learn new skills, will pick up new life skills, and hopefully that can be brought into to a new learning attitude as well.
Well, Darren, what about you?
I think the future for me, uh, for me myself, I think it's a bit unpredictable, but yet I'm like trying to pick up into like uh, digital jobs and learning digital course like digital marketing. So like I think the future of the fashion is like what we discussed. I think it's a very technology driven thing, especially after this pandemic. I think a lot of fashion brands and businesses, the models have been reevaluated, and like a lot of big brands actually like drop out from the cycle of fashion weeks and shifted everything to online, digitalized, inclusive kind of style. So I think yeah, I think it's very unpredictable and yet is exciting for this change.
And Kenneth?
I think for me, I think I'm still exploring even more different skills, and yeah, whereas I think for the future of fashion, I think in my perspective, I think it'll be more simplified, I guess. Then yeah, technology would really play a very important role, and yeah, it's very unpredictable right now. So yeah.
Well, you know what? On that note, I wish all three of you the very brightest of futures in fashion. And congratulations once again to Darren and Kenneth and all the graduates from NAFA and all the graduates from Singapore and all over the world for graduating uh, graciously and fighting the restrictions to graduate with wonderful collections. So congratulations to all of you. Thank you all of you for tuning in to this very interesting podcast. Thank you to my three guests. I hope to see you online at the next the Front Row podcast. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy the rest of the shows and enjoy navigating the site. I'm Daniel Boy. See you again soon.